It's an indisputable fact that Kaeya's skin is absolutely gorgeous, 11 out of 10. It's just the right shade of blue, it has so many accessories, it has peacock motifs, the sleeves are dainty, the pants look unique, the halter top complements his collarbone, and of course there's that very stylish and intriguing dagger. Genshin fans will notice all of that and still gloss over the fact that the outfit looks blatantly Indian. Or I guess they would notice it, but it doesn't seem to click for many people that Kaeya is Indian. Of course, within my curated Twitter community, everyone reacts to Indian Kaeya with a round of applause and kissy emojis, well, not literally but figuratively. Yet whenever I so much as tell my real life friends about it, it's just crickets. And because of my frustrations with that, allow me to just have a casual rant over Kaeya being Indian. And by the way, if you do appreciate the somewhat extensive work I've done on this matter, you might want to subscribe to my channel to show support. Anyway, going back, I know we can't really assume this about Kaeya because it's not canonically confirmed and I made a whole ass video dissing presumptuous lore theories, but the thing is, Kaeya being Indian is just who he is. It's not a secret identity or a prediction about his future. Also, I have to clarify with Indian, like I mean the Genshin version of Indian, because even though Teyvat races aren't the same as those in the real world, there's still a huge parallel. Like, don't you look at Ayaka, A, and Kazuha and immediately understand that, this character is Japanese inspired? Yet, how can people look at Kaeya with his appearance, name, and peacock constellation and still stay so dense about his cultural inspirations? I mean, he is usually dressed in Mondstadt attire, so I guess that might be one of the things getting in the way of people realizing. But as I always say, there's Amber whose grandfather is from Liyue, and she's not suddenly found in a Cheongsam, right? And Thoma who was born and raised in Mondstadt, but his entire get-up and skills are based on Inazuman culture. Basically, I'm saying that someone doesn't have to display their culture in your face for them to be a part of that very culture. Even a few hints would suffice, right? And the thing is, now, Kaeya is wearing something that looks so undeniably South Asian, and I'm pretty sure people still won't get the memo until the canon text says outright that this man is Indian equivalent in Teyvat terms. I know it's a good attitude to wait for canon confirmation for things like this and not assume, but I also feel like strong hints are good enough to get the message across. And at the very least, I wish people just considered it as more viable when discussing his lore and potential background. Yes, he is Khaenri'ah, but again, that doesn't negate him being Indian. Anyway, you can just listen to my previous videos on that. To be honest though, it's not only a problem faced by Kaeya but also by Sumeru characters as a whole. Like, these characters are inspired by individual real-life ethnicities, and yet people shrug their shoulders so much and go, they're from Sumeru, no need to think hard about it, it's a fictional nation. What makes that kind of attitude so strange is that people can clearly tell that people from Liyue are Chinese and people from Inazuma are Japanese. With Mondstadt, maybe people also do generalize them too, even though they're a mix of Scandinavian, Germanic, and even Italian. But people at least get a sense that they're from Northern or Central Europe, so they're not expecting to see like Russian characters in Mondstadt, you know. Anyway, going back to Sumeru, it is true that there were lots of empires that spanned vast lands within South and West Asia and Northern Africa, but the individual ethnicities within those were still kinda preserved. In a similar sense, Sumeru is a melting pot, but it's important to be able to identify each character's real-life counterpart ethnicities to determine how these inspirations affect their lore. For example, from what I've heard from Iranians on Twitter, is that Nilou's pursuit of the arts and her rebellion against academia is very inspirational considering they're fighting for women's rights right now as we speak in Iran. So that context is very beneficial for her character, and the same goes for the majority of the Sumeru characters, and I think it's a similar case for Kaeya. Listen, I'm not saying that I'm expecting everyone to know Kaeya is implied to be Indian, because even I didn't believe it at first, but I slowly warmed up to it after my friend exposed me to that speculation, and as someone who's part Indian, I also do appreciate it a lot. What I'm saying is that I wish people who were into lore would kinda consider these inspirations when talking about Kaeya or any other Sumeru characters for that matter. Of course, it doesn't affect the majority of his personality, but you can't ignore its subtle influences, either like possible parallels to Hindu or Buddhist mythology could be used to analyze him. Heck, even he can't ignore it considering he chose to dress up as an Indian pirate instead of a typical European pirate. But you know, the thing is, I do know Kaeya's Indian references are quite contentious, because his name might not directly mean monsoon flower in any Indian languages. And the peacock in his constellation might not be exclusively Indian, and even his skin might just really be a costume. However, people are so dismissive of it to such an odd degree, as if it's such a preposterous notion. Like, let me say now, even if Hoyoverse never confirms that Kaeya is the Teyvat version of Indian, I will be very pissed, but the headcanon of him being Indian is still likely with the amount of inspiration he carries, and especially because him being Indian does not contradict any given lore fact. It doesn't even contradict his being Khaenri'ah, because he could be a half-blood, or Khaenri'ah could be more diverse than we think. It really is a very simple idea that's plausible, and some people in this fandom treat it with the same suspicion as with lore theories like Sandrone and Guizhong being the same person. Heck, I think many people would consider far out nonsensical theories before they'd even acknowledge that Kaeya being Indian could be a thing. Actually, this is part of why I was really frustrated with Hoyoverse for making Kaeya's skin just a costume for a play. Because now I can imagine people saying stuff like, Kaeya's not Indian, it's just a costume, don't read much into it. But then again, as I said, I don't think it's completely Hoyoverse's fault for not revealing concrete information on this matter right away, since it can somehow be more in character for Kaeya to just live life as an Indian person without explicitly telling people about his heritage, because his individuality makes up his approach to life, and that would count as him living authentically. He doesn't really owe people an explanation on his background, even when it came to the Khaenri'ah reveal, like he also didn't need to mention it if ever he never wanted to. So right now, I'm at a point where I feel like the problem lies more with fans being dense rather than the writer's lack of revelation. I mean, I really would appreciate it if Hoyoverse stopped dancing around the concept and just outright revealed why Kaeya has so many Indian inspirations in his character themes. But I also do understand that the timing might not be right currently. I just wish other players would get the message even without a formal confirmation yet. At the end of the day, I really don't want to force my fellow Genshin fans to believe the same thing I do. It's just that I really wish they were less dismissive about a headcanon that's highly plausible and good for representation. A lot of the time, people who oppose the Desi Kaeya speculation aren't like, I'm not sure about the proof, so we'll just see down the line. No, lots of the times, they're outright dismissive, saying it's actually just impossible because Khaenri'ah is inspired by Norse mythology or his last name is Alberich, as if mixed people don't exist. And then they go on to believe Kaeya is part of the Fatui, so go figure. Basically, what I'm asking for is calm disagreement from people who don't support the Indian Kaeya theory. And I hope that there would be more support for this idea from more prominent voices in the lore community if they do think the speculation can be viable. I do know that I am likely way too passionate about Indian Kaeya, and I'm probably also guilty of self-promotion whenever I argue in favor of the speculation because I've done lots of work on helping the idea shape up. However, I really would like to acknowledge literally all the people who have done good work building the Indian Kaeya concept up, from outspoken voices on social media to commenters on the Genshin wiki page. It is a community effort which I only try to support in the best way I can. And yeah, I do keep on reiterating this, but the whole talk about Desi Kaeya is not meant to determine his personality based on his race. Ironically, it's your average lore theorists that do this way too much when discussing his Khaenri'ah identity, in fact. Meanwhile, I don't really see Indian Kaeya advocates doing that. All we want is just an acknowledgement of how varied we can be and how our individual stories can go beyond stereotypes. Kaeya especially has been a positive portrayal for many of us because even though he's suspicious and prone to lying, his journey towards living authentically and upholding his beliefs feels so real. Plus, he's insanely attractive, which is also great for representation. I don't know, it just feels so powerful telling people, hey, you know that hot guy you simp for with interesting lore from that one-hit game? Yeah, he's Indian. Like, listen to how powerful that sounds. So yeah, I just wanted to outright say this because even though his skin's lore seems to be entirely based on a fictional play, it still gives me an increased level of confidence to advocate for Indian Kaeya. And I wanted to have a video title that explicitly says he's Indian because most of my other ones have generic Kaeya lore titles and it's in the content where I mention that I truly believe he's Indian. Now I wanted to be bolder and display that idea for everyone to see because I think the concept needs to be advertised more, not to force more people to believe in it, but to allow people to consider it. Who knows, there might be people who are interested in the prospect of Indian Kaeya but haven't heard of the idea until now. Thus, I'm giving you the opportunity to be excited about it for now. I think that's it for my little rant, which is an unusual format for me considering I usually write my vids using an essay-like structure. Let me know if you like this kind of format and if you do like my conjectures about Desi Kaeya. Feel free to subscribe to my channel for more analysis videos like this one. I want to know, before patch 3.8 comes around, what kind of lore do you think will come out in Kaeya's skin, and are you excited for the main event and his hangout? Leave your comments down below, or better yet, you can reach out to me through Twitter at PurpleTarotBurb because I'm much more active and chatty there. Hopefully, we'll have some new insights on some characters during the new patch, and until then, please rest and have fun, and I'll catch you after the update.